So I'm down here, and here's McCormick Place, and they've been wanting to expand this for a long time, but it's just not the expansion of McCormick Place. They have to upgrade everything, the infrastructure in the area all around it. So it's just not McCormick Place. Everything needs to get an upgrade. Here's the Hyatt Hotel, which is connected to McCormick Place. So you have the Marriott next door, but the Hyatt is connected. And so you have a big convention area, and it has a crosswalk that connects the two sides. It's divided by Martin Luther King Drive. But I've been reading for years, they've been trying to figure out how to expand the convention capacity. I took my CFA exam here multiple times. Once in Rosemont, twice in Chicago. I took the exam 3 times, I think, was it? Actually, 4 times. So each time my score went up, and then the last 2 times it was identical. Which, anyways, but here's the Marriott. So this whole area needs to improve. So they put in like the Wintrust Arena, but how does that fit in with McCormick Place? So during convention, are they going to have music events or basketball games or sporting events? And if you're DePaul University and you play here, which you do, why wouldn't you time your events to be at the same time as the conventions? Why? Because conventioneers can come in and watch the game. And so you can sell a lot of tickets to the conventioneers. So sporting events being in town at the same time of the convention, like the Sox, the Cubs, the Bears, say the Hawks, the Bulls, the other teams, the Chicago Professional Soccer League. Truly, depending on the convention, what team should be in town, and those teams should get a lot of conventioneers buying tickets and attending those events. So again, and you got the Hampton Inn and Suite and the home suites here. And then this area right here, this whole area right here on Michigan, South Michigan, going down here, has to be upgraded. That whole area has to be upgraded. And this whole pathway into Chinatown has to be upgraded. Truly has to be upgraded. And that means White Castle will get a lot more business. Because if people can move around freely without threat, business thrives. When people have to be worried about threats, they bunker down. And so that's why those communities, whether it's Latin America or Mexico, they don't do well. They have a lot of problems with upside because people bunker down with criminal activity, and criminal activity stifles business unfreaking believable. Wiping out criminal activity allows business to move freely, like public transportation. You know, the CTA and RTA took huge hits because of criminal activity. People are afraid to take the bus, afraid to take the train, because they're afraid to get mugged. My friend had to have a concealed carry taking the train because he got off the RTA in Rogers Park and he got mugged multiple times. I got stuck up off the train in Rogers Park, coming off the RTA. There were no cops monitoring, nothing monitoring the outside. It stifles public transportation. Then down State Street here, this way, you have the Illinois Institute of Technology. And that couldn't grow because of criminal activity around campus. And then the University of Chicago. It grows more at the Gleacher Center because there's no criminal activity around it. So that's thriving, the part-time programs in that. But the campus at the University of Chicago and I've talked to people, it's been struggling because of the criminal activity around it. And people don't want the crime. They can go to MIT, they can go to a lot of other universities that don't have the criminal activity around it. And they choose to go that direction, go around Harvard and that. There's no criminal activity. I've been around those areas. It's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's quiet, and unbelievably safe. So it stifles the activity. So if you want to stifle the activity, keep up certain activities and you suppress it. And then you cry poor mouth where you're the disease and the solution is there and you refuse to take the solution. So it's ridiculous. I work with all these places that are willing to lift these people out of their situation. Urban Ministries, PADS, the Salvation Army, Goodwill, you name it. And they don't do it. So they're the disease. They burn in hell. They will. They're destined for eternal damnation. God considers them a disease. They have the cure right in front of them. And we're talking here in America. The cure is right at their feet. All they have to do is get the feet walking and they receive the cure. So their plight is upon themselves. They're a plague to themselves. It's called self-destruction, self-decay. So no one to blame but themselves. So they self-implode. So here's Chinatown, and if it expands, this firehouse, it doesn't have enough functionality. Truly. That firehouse doesn't have much capability. So again, when you do have more people and more activity going on, it naturally brings up the risk factor. And so you want to make sure they have the right capabilities to address incidents that might cause more people to get hurt. When you thin out the traffic and everything and it goes down, well, then if one bad thing happens, it only hurts very few people. But as a city gets more and more busy and you get conventions and more traffic, if something happens, more people naturally will get hurt. It's just the law of large numbers, basically. So numbers get smaller, there's smaller amounts of people to hurt. As things grow and people move around, then naturally more occurrences. So, again, like with activity, the greatest thing that anyone at Aflac would want is people just to play sports. Sports-related industries, when people get more active, see, you get the smaller injuries, but you get much more of them by people trying to stay healthy. But they're consistent. Instead, you got to wait for the couch potato to wait a decade, 2 decades for the couch potato to get coronary artery disease. And then they have the big one, and it's a risk because the percentage of people that survive major heart attacks or strokes tends to be low. So you only get a small percentage of those people when they have the big one. Like my father, he had a massive heart attack. My boss, Larry Ward, had a massive heart attack. Literally, their heart blows up in their chest. And you're not saving them, per se. So you rather have them active and get the smaller injuries on a consistent basis, and they're all over it. Broken finger, like I did with flag football, it needs to be reset. I didn't get it reset, but it needs to be reset. It messes up the internal dynamics with the cartilage and the neurological flow and so on within the bone when they're not positioned correctly. So it causes issues. So yes, you need your bones reset and positioned properly. So again, you get all these small things, but they're all the time. But if you get people to sit on their ass and say work from home, and they don't travel to and from work, and they sit on their ass at home, then yeah, you don't get a lot, but the sedentary action will catch up and you'll get the major things, but they're down the road and only a percentage of them survive. And so you're getting a small percentage of the larger quantity, and so it doesn't pay off. So I'd rather get a higher percentage of a smaller impairment than a larger percentage, meaning a higher, a more catastrophic issue, but I get a lower percentage of them. So only University of Chicago gets something, or Northwestern gets something, but that's it. And they're far and few between, because a lot of people don't survive it. But if you keep them active and they commute to work and they do all these things, then in turn, you'll get a lot of small injuries. Like a lot of people pulled their calf, the weekend warrior and that. My brother had to have his knee rehabbed, and he had other injuries from playing softball. So all these people got all kinds. I pulled my hamstring. So again, I had a calf strain. I had to go in and I had crutches when I was with Jen playing flag football. So you get the smaller injuries, but they're consistently. And so as people move back and forth more frequently and do the exercising and running and all that, you get the plantar fasciitis and you get, all these things. And naturally, they get their piece of pie, not through people doing bad things, but people trying to be the best they can be. And by doing that, naturally, things like, I know a lot of bodybuilders who tore their pectoral. I had people that ripped their hamstring that were athletes and that. And they're trying to be the best they can be. They have great trainers and that. But there's all this work as people get more active. And so it's enough for everybody. But if people sit indoors and crime keeps them inside, you get the gunshot here or the gunshot there, but only a few places get that, and those people don't have money. You want the people, criminals don't have health insurance. It's not an occupation. They don't register for health insurance. If they do, it's the government Medicaid. Truly, it's the government Medicaid. I know a lot of mobsters. They didn't have health insurance. So, if they had anything, truly, these gangbangers, they're on Medicaid. Read Freakonomics. So, again, you're getting nothing for reimbursement. And so, you want the people moving around and doing things, and they have these things that happen through natural, beautiful activity. So you'll get your piece of the pie. But the police need to do the right thing, make it safe so people can be highly active. It's the opposite of what you think. I found this out with companies with annuities. They're like, oh, we need market downturns to sell annuities. No, they don't. People put money market in money. They put money in money markets or in savings accounts or kept it at gold bullion or something like that. And they didn't sell annuities. But when times were great, all annuities were flying off the board. Because people don't have to worry about downside risk. They get upside, and they're getting great upside with no downside risk. Why do you think index life, index annuities were selling like hotcakes? Because they get all the upside and it has a 0% floor. Now there's some limitations like Hancock, 12% a year, but in a few years you've made 100%. And you get to keep all that money. So you get to keep all your gains. So all that stuff was selling like hotcakes. It was the downturns that hurt the annuity companies. The upturns, because people didn't want to truly, they were too afraid of tying up their money. In downtime, see, with annuities, it's only a 10% liquidity. And when people are hurting, they can't afford to put their money into illiquid things like annuities. So they don't buy annuities in downtimes. It's too illiquid. They want their money very readily. That's why I published all the trillions of dollars sitting in checking or savings accounts, and people refuse, and I've been with them, refuse to move it out. I need 100% liquidity. I can't tie up 90% of my liquidity. So in good times, they can tie up 90% and they'll take the 10% liquidity all day long because it goes away in 7 years, but they can't wait 7 years in an economically downturn. So they lose. They win in prosperity. So you don't understand. Let the good times roll and do the right thing, and everybody wins. Please get more tickets and all that, because people are more active and they make mistakes. And not on purpose, but they get more activity through just pure accidents. Because as you're more active, you're more likely to make a mistake. If you're less active, you're less likely to make a mistake. So through higher activity, they get more opportunity. So they're wrong. In the good times, they get more business. So it's opposite of their thinking. Get rid of the crime, and they'll have all kinds of incidental business, and they'll be very busy. In bad times, only a few areas get activity. In good times, all areas get activity. So they're wrong. Get rid of the crime, and you'll have lots to do.